Okay, let's unpack this with a story that honestly makes me cringe, but, in the best possible way.
I'm already in.
So I want you to picture a 14-year-old boy. He's about to go on his very first date. He is terrified. He has zero idea what to do.
Been there.
So naturally, he goes to the library.
The library. He went to the library to prep for a date.
He treated it like a term paper. He checks out a book called 500 Successful Jokes.
Oh, no.
And he decides, in his infinite 14-year-old wisdom, that his job on this date is to entertain the girl. So he memorizes as many as he can.
He memorized them?
He picks her up, and he just launches into a monologue. Did you hear the one about joke after joke after joke?
That sounds absolutely painful.
It gets worse. He didn't even realize he could, talk to her about normal things. He just thought, I need to perform.
That poor girl.
She probably thought she was on a date with a stand-up comedian who was bombing.
Well, that is a classic example of what John Gottman talks about. It just shows how clueless we can be at the start.
Sure.
But it also points to something deeper. The sheer amount of effort and anxiety and just performance we pour into those early days.
Exactly. And that brings us to the mission for this deep dive. We are looking at a stack of research from, psychological studies to relationship guides, all centered on a concept that might sound a bit paradoxical. The second first date.
Right. And just to be clear up front, the mission here isn't to build a time machine. We aren't trying to change history.
No.
We are looking at how to recapture the energy, the attention, and yes, even the nerves of that first date, but applying it to a long-term relationship where you think you already know everything.
And we're pulling from Gottman, Tony Evans, Paul David Tripp, a few others, to really figure out how to get back to the beginning.
Because, let's be honest, the sweatpants phase of marriage is very, very comfortable.
Oh, it's the best.
But it's a long way from memorizing 500 jokes just to impress someone.
It certainly is.
And there's a reason we put so much pressure on ourselves in the beginning. Jerry Seinfeld actually has a great quote about this.
Oh, the job interview one.
The job interview one, he says, dating is pressure and tension. What is a date, really, but a job interview that lasts all night?
That is painfully accurate. A job interview with pasta?
Right. But unlike a job interview, usually both people are desperate to get hired.
True. But think about the behavior in a job interview. You are hyper attentive.
Oh, completely.
You're listening to every syllable. You're putting your absolute best foot forward.
You are hiding your flaws in the closet and, locking the door.
Oh, absolutely. This connects to what Gary Chapman calls the tingles.
The tingle.
Yes. In his book, he talks about that warm, bubbly feeling. It's that intense chemical reaction that motivates you to go out for a hamburger with someone, even if you aren't hungry.
You just want to be near them.
Right.
And in another book, he points out that this stage is actually obsessive. We see the other person as perfect.
We really do.
Your friends might say, hey, he hasn't had a steady job in 5 years. And you're like, he's just waiting for the right opportunity.
Or they say, she's been married 5 times. And you go, well, those guys were losers. I'm going to make her happy.
We put on blinders. We just edit out the red flags.
Paul David Tripp uses a much stronger term for it. He calls it romantic delirium.
Romantic delirium.
That sounds like a diagnosis.
In a way, it kind of is. In his book, he argues that in the beginning, we are almost in a coma regarding reality.
A coma.
Yeah. We are motivated not to hear the truth because we don't want to mess up the affection. We don't want to ruin the high.
But hold on, is that actually a bad thing? I mean, if we saw all the red flags on the first date, the chewing habits, the weird relationship with their mother, the credit card debt.
Nobody would ever get married.
Right. Don't we need the delirium just to get the courage to sign the paper?
That is a fair point. Biologically, yeah, we probably need it. It's the bait that gets us into the trap of commitment.
But Tripp's point isn't that the delirium is evil, it's that it's temporary.
Yeah.
The problem is that we expect the coma to last forever.
And when we wake up, we feel betrayed.
You wake up 5 years later and realize, wait, you chew your food like a cement mixer? Or you leave the wet towel on the bed every single day.
Exactly. And that transition can be brutal. There's a line in one of the sources that says, disappointment to a noble soul is like cold water to burning metal.
Ouch. That imagery is visceral.
It strengthens, but it tempers. The heat is gone. And that's usually where couples get stuck. They move from the delirium to the disappointment or just the mundane administrative mode, and they stop trying.
Which is why this concept of the second first date is so interesting. It's not about pretending you don't know the person. It's about re-engaging the effort.
Yes.
So let's get into the mechanics of this. Some of the guides we looked at suggest that this isn't just a date night. It's a full-on reconstruction.
Right. The idea is to recreate the first date as faithfully as possible. If you went to a specific Italian restaurant, you go back there.
If you want bowling, you go bowling.
You wear something that makes you feel the way you felt then.
But it's not just about nostalgia, right? It's not just, hey, remember when we were young and cool and had better metabolism? There's a deeper framework here.
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting. Tony Evans, in his work, applies a theological principle to this relationship dynamic.
Right.
He points to a passage in Revelation. Now, contextually, this is for a church that has lost its passion, but he applies it directly to marriage. The formula is 3 words.
And those are?
Remember, repent, and repeat.
Okay, let's unpack those. Remember seems straightforward enough. We're looking back at the highlight reel.
Remember is reflecting on the early days when love was the priority, when you would drive 2 hours just to see them for 20 minutes.
Or as another source says, when you would break your neck to impress them.
I love that phrase, break your neck. It implies risk and effort.
I remember spending 45 minutes on my hair. Now I'm lucky if I run a comb through it.
Exactly. We put in the work.
Yeah.
And that leads to the second step, which is the hardest one, repent.
Whoa. Repent is a heavy word. It sounds like I need to be in sackcloth and ashes because I worked late. What are we actually repenting of here?
It's not about shame or guilt. Evans explains that repent simply means to change your mind or change your direction.
So in a marriage context,
We are admitting that we have allowed other things to compete for the attention our spouse deserves.
so it's about the drift, the slow fade.
It's about the path of least resistance. Think about it. It is physically easier to check your email than to listen to your spouse's feelings.
It's easier to turn on Netflix than to plan a romantic dinner.
It is easier to focus on the kids because they are screaming for attention.
That's true. The natural gravity of life pulls you away from the marriage.
Exactly. So repenting here is the active, difficult friction of saying, I am turning my back on the easy thing, the phone, the TV, the exhaustion to face you.
It's an intentional disruption of the status quo.
It's an active pivot. And then the third one, repeat.
Do the deeds you did at first.
Yes. And this is the crucial psychological insight, honestly. Evans, and many psychologists will tell you, that you cannot wait for the feeling of being in love to come back before you act.
Right. We usually think, I'll do something romantic when I feel romantic.
But the principle here is that love follows action.
The emotion follows the motion.
If you do the deeds, if you go on the date, if you open the car door, if you ask the questions, the feelings will follow. You don't wait for the fire, you strike the match.
Okay, so let's say we strike the match. You plan this second first date. You get dressed up. Actually dressed up, not clean sweatpants dressed up.
Important distinction.
You go to the place. But then you're sitting across from each other. And this is where the rubber meets the road. What do you talk about?
This is the danger zone. Because the default mode for married couples is what I call administrative mode.
Oh, fully. Did you pay the electric bill? Who was picking up the kids? The car makes a weird clunking noise when I turn left.
Exactly. If you talk about the electric bill on your second first date, you have failed. You have to get out of the logistics and back into discovery.
But here is the problem, and I think a lot of listeners will feel this. How do you discover someone you've lived with for 10 years? You think you know everything.
You think you know everything.
You know how they chew, you know their favorite color, you know they hate cilantro.
Right. But John Gottman argues that we often rely on outdated information because our brains are lazy. He calls this a love map.
And these maps get dusty.
They get completely obsolete. The brain loves efficiency. Once it labels your spouse as known, it stops collecting new data.
That makes sense.
Gottman shares a story about a card game he plays with couples. He asks a husband, who are your wife's best friends?
Let me guess. He names people she hasn't seen in a decade.
Exactly. The husband says, Bob and Neil. And the wife looks at him, totally deadpan, and says, Neil died 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. That is awkward.
And then she says, my best friend is Phil now. And the husband is sitting there, totally confident in his wrong answer.
That is a love map that hasn't been updated.
At all. We assume we know our partner's inner world, but people change, their fears change, their dreams change.
So on this second first date, we need to force an update. We need to ask questions that aren't, what do you want for dinner?
Correct. And the sources give us some really specific deep dive questions to ask. Instead of small talk, you're asked, what is one of your worst fears in life right now?
Not generally, but right now.
Exactly.
That's good, because fears definitely evolve.
Right.
What I was afraid of at 25 is very different from what I'm afraid of at 40.
Another one is, who is your favorite relative? Or, this is a big one, what is your fondest dream as yet unachieved?
That last one is powerful. As yet, unachieved. It acknowledges that there's still more they want to do.
And then there are the lighter ones that still matter. Gutman mentions asking, what is your partner's favorite tree?
Favorite tree? That sounds a bit random.
It sounds silly, right? But in the example, the husband knows his wife loves sequoias. It shows he pays attention to the details of what brings her joy.
So it's not about the tree.
It's about the attention.
It's the difference between knowing someone's schedule and knowing their soul. But here is the snag. You sit down for this date, you muster up the courage to ask a deep question like, what is your unachieved dream? And you get a one-word answer.
Right.
Or worse, your partner pivots and starts talking about the grocery budget again.
Right. The conversation misfires. You feel like you're trying to start a fire with wet wood. And usually that's not a lack of love, it's a difference in processing. The sources use a heuristic for this that is honestly hilarious but weirdly accurate.
Waffles and spaghetti.
Waffles and spaghetti.
I was hoping we'd get to the food analogies.
It is from that book, and it really helps explain the friction of that second first date. The authors suggest that men tend to process like waffles.
Meaning life is in little squares.
Exactly. You have a box for work, a box for the car, a box for the kids, a box for the spouse. And the rule of the waffle is you stay in one box at a time.
The syrup doesn't mix.
The syrup does not mix. If you are in the work box, you are not in the spouse box.
And women are the spaghetti.
Right. Everything touches everything. The noodles are all intertwined. If you talk about the car, that connects to the budget, which connects to the job, which connects to how tired you are, which connects to why you didn't cook dinner.
It's all one big plate.
So you're on this date. The husband is in his date box. He's thinking, I am successfully dating. I am fulfilling the requirement.
And the wife is doing spaghetti, connecting the date to the babysitter, to the budget, to the conversation they had yesterday.
And that's where the conversation crashes. He feels overwhelmed because she's bringing up unrelated things.
And she feels unheard because he's being reductive.
But recognizing it can actually be funny. The source mentions a couple who actually used this as a code. When the husband needed to retreat into a box, his password was, let go of my ego.
And the wife?
Her password was ragu, just to signal, hey, I'm overwhelmed by connections right now.
I love that. Ragu. It's a way to signal your mental state without starting a fight. It keeps it light.
And that's really the vibe of this second first date. It shouldn't be a heavy therapy session. It should be curious.
Curiosity is the key word. When you were on that first date, before the 500 jokes, you were genuinely curious about who this person was.
You wanted to solve the mystery of them. Over time, we think we've solved the mystery, so we stop investigating.
The goal of this date is to reopen the case.
Yes.
Okay, but let's address the elephant in the room. This is going to feel awkward.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, sitting across from the person who saw you brush your teeth this morning and trying to act like you're on a first date, it's going to feel like role play. It's going to feel fake.
It absolutely will feel fake for the first 20 minutes. You have to push through the cringe.
So the awkwardness is a good sign.
It's a great sign. It
Yeah.
means you are breaking the pattern. You are stepping out of the roommate rut.
So let's get practical. We want to issue a direct challenge for this week.
Do it.
Plan a second first date. And here is the step-by-step breakdown from the source material. Step 1.
Preparation. And this matters. Do not just show up. Dress the part. Put in the effort you did the first time. If you spend an hour getting ready then, spend an hour getting ready now.
Anticipation is part of the experience.
Totally.
Step 2. The activity.
Go to the location of your first date, or somewhere that feels very similar. Try to replicate the sensory experience, the sights, the smells, the food. You want to trigger that episodic memory.
And step 3. The discussion.
Leave the administrative talk at home. Put a ban on talking about kids, bills, or house repairs, and ask these specific questions. You can even write them down on a napkin.
Okay, what are they?
First, were you nervous before our first date?
That's a great icebreaker. It admits vulnerability right off the bat.
Second, what was your first impression of me? And third, and this is the big one, at what point did you know I was the one?
That is such a good question because it forces you to retell your origin story. It forces you to revisit the moment you fell in love.
And retelling that story reinforces the bond. It reminds you why you were doing this in the first place.
It clears away the fog of the daily grind.
Exactly.
Now, I want to add one final layer here because I think it's important for setting expectations. We talked about love maps and knowing the other person, but there's a quote from Gottman that I found really freeing.
The one about the two marriages?
Yes, he writes, "There really are two marriages, his and hers."
That is a profound realization. He says that because of biological and cultural differences, and just the fact that we are two separate consciousnesses,
You will never completely understand the other person.
never. And that's okay.
It is okay.
In fact, it's necessary. He says we need to accept that. We can't expect our partner to see the world exactly as we do. The goal isn't total fusion, it's appreciation of the difference.
You are dating a foreigner, in a way.
You're visiting their country. You might not speak the language perfectly. You might be a waffle in a spaghetti world. But you can appreciate the culture.
That takes the pressure off. I don't have to read their mind. I just have to be interested in their mind.
Exactly. And that leads to a final thought. Marriage isn't a static thing. It's not a box you check once.
It's a series of new beginnings.
We tend to think of the first date as this historic event that happened once in, 2012? But if you embrace this mindset, you can have a first date with your spouse 10 years in, 20 years in,
You can meet them all over again.
because they are a different person. And so are you. The person you married 10 years ago doesn't exist anymore. They have evolved. You have evolved.
And if you don't update your map, you're navigating a new city with an old guide.
You're going to get lost.
So the challenge stands. Get the calendar out, find the babysitter if you need one, push through the awkwardness, book the restaurant, and ask the question, who is this person sitting across from me?
And maybe, just maybe, skip the 500 Successful Jokes book.
Please, for the love of everything, skip the jokes. Just talk. Update your map, and see what happens when you decide to start over right where you are.
It's never too late to remember, repent, and repeat.
Go make it happen. We'll see you on that next deep dive.